Hi, it's Saturday morning, and that means it is time for Meals with Melissa, where I come up with really great, healthier alternatives to some of the things that you might normally like to eat. So today we're making a really great one. Once in a while, I just find really great recipes that my whole family is like, oh my word, and this is one of them. Now, I freely admit I have a sweet tooth, and of course I'm super low carb right now, so I really choose to kind of find some alternatives to some of the things I really like, which I'm not gonna lie, I love chocolate. So the avocado fudge cookies, and these are low carb, are amazing. I've already tried these once this week. They turned out fantastic. Now, I do wanna show you what they're gonna look like. I forgot to do that last time. I made a batch and I kind of threw them in the oven and forgot to show you what they will look like. I made a batch earlier this week. They look just like cookies. Now, of course, the consistency is a little different than you might find with obviously a cookie that you're gonna use all-purpose flour. This actually doesn't include any flour whatsoever. You're actually using avocado as the filler. So turns out super great. It's gonna be a really strange consistency. So just to kind of give you a heads up that, I'll show you. It's a little sticky and weird, but it turns out great. They taste amazing, and you can keep them in the fridge for like up to a week. So now let me just tell you, I know that I do a lot of, sweets and kind of dessert style things, but that doesn't mean that you should be eating them on a daily basis. I think that we're all kind of looking for that one thing that gets us through. And although these taste good and they're something that you can use here and there, you probably shouldn't do this on a daily basis. Now, this does contain erythritol. I also warn against you about eating too many of them in one day, because too much erythritol or any sugar alcohol is actually going to give you a little bit of digestive distress. And you have to be careful with that, because you don't want to feel bloated and gross, right? And that's why most of us eat clean in the first place. We don't want to feel yucky. So super easy recipe. So I'm gonna make sure that I include this down below, because honestly, again, second to the brownie bites that I made a couple months ago, these are amazing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start out with a ripe avocado. The squishier, honestly, the better, because you're gonna mash it up anyway, and then you're gonna bake it. So it's 100 grams. Now, you may have to find the gram part on your scale. They do exist. But you're gonna do 100 grams of avocado, ripe avocado, and you're just gonna mash it up until it's honestly as mashed and mixed up as you possibly can make it. Kind of like if you're making guacamole, but obviously we're not. So I'm going to add that to my stand mixer. Now, my stand mixer is a little bit big, so it was a little difficult. I had to scrape the sides down quite a bit. But honestly, it works better, and it's not as noisy as, say, a hand mixer, which is what the recipe originally calls for. I like to give credit where credit is due. I'll also include where I found this. Most of my recipes come from Pinterest. Now, just a caveat on Pinterest, just because it says it works doesn't always mean that. 2 weeks ago, I tried to do a sugar-free Nutella version. Did not work out, didn't taste good, the texture was really, really strange. So you kind of have to pay attention, and sometimes you just have a little bit of trial and error to see if it works. I also see a lot of stuff on Pinterest that just drives me crazy, like the one thing that makes belly fat burn, drink this. Okay, you guys, that's garbage. Get over it. If it sounds too good to be true, honestly, it really is. Okay, so back to this. So I'm gonna throw this in my stand mixer. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this off. Now, last time I used the beater attachment, but today I'm gonna use the paddle, just because the beater attachment because this is so sticky, it tends to cling quite a bit to the beater. So I'm gonna use the paddle attachment and see how well it works, because I'm just trying to mix it fairly well and incorporate it. I'm gonna put this in, okay? And then I'm gonna add half a cup of hold on a second, I gotta look to make sure I get this in the right order. I'm actually first gonna add an egg. The order that they put the ingredients is not the order that you're actually gonna add them to. So I'm gonna add 1 large egg, whole egg. Now again, I'm assuming you could probably use egg whites, but honestly, this contains extra fat, because again, those of us low carb, that's where our calories actually need to come from, is fats. Fats are not bad for you. I know for any of us that went through the 80s and 90s, you heard the whole fat is bad, fat causes fat, fat causes fat. It's crap. It's absolute crap. It's the sugar and the processed food that causes weight gain and unhealthy living. So fats, again, I'm low carb, so you gotta add the calories somehow, and I do that through fats. So I'm gonna add 1 egg. I'm also gonna add, let's see, making sure I get this right, 1/4 cup of the erythritol, or today I'm using pure, which is actually a erythritol and stevia blend. I just prefer it. I like the texture a little bit better. I know people have said that stevia and chocolate don't mix very well. I disagree. I've had zero problems with it, but I'm also used to using stevia. I don't like sucralose. Sucralose is a sugar derivative, and it will spike insulin just like sugar. So even though it shows that it's no calorie, you also have to realize that that no calorie thing on the label is because there's less than 0.5 grams of sugar per serving size. So the packet of Splenda, yeah, that's gonna tell you it doesn't have calories, but that's crap as well. So I'm gonna use 1/4 cup of, again, I'm using pure. I just like it better than the Swerve. I've used Swerve. It works great, especially if you need the confectioner sugar consistency as well, because they make that. All right, now I'm gonna add, I know this is a hard one, 3/8 teaspoon of liquid stevia. So honestly, that's a weird amount to try and incorporate. So I'm gonna do just over 1/4 teaspoon. Liquid stevia is pretty intense, so you don't need a ton. It's very concentrated. Okay, so then I'm gonna also add a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. We tend to use a lot of that in my house. That and a lot of coarse kosher salt. I don't use iodized salt because it does contain sugar, which I find fascinating, but it is what it is. I'm gonna take 1/4 teaspoon of the pink Himalayan salt, and you can get that anymore at almost any store. That's not hard to find. All right, so I'm gonna throw that back on my mixer just to combine it, and we'll see how the paddle does on this one. May have to grab the beater, but hopefully this will work out just fine. All right, so yes, I have a giant KitchenAid. I love it. Not gonna lie, I do a lot of baking over the holidays, and so it's my thing. All right, I gotta plug it in. That would kind of be important there. Missing a step. I moved it from its regular location over in the other corner. So, all right, here we go. Turn that puppy on. At some point, you're gonna wanna mix it on high to make sure it is really incorporating all the ingredients, because of course mine isn't so super full. It's a very small batch. Okay, while we're doing that, we're going to work on adding cocoa. Oh, see, it's mixing just fine. I did grab a big rubber scraper. Just because, like I said, it's a big bowl. I think it's like 5-6 quart. I don't even know. It's huge. And in some instances, I need that big of a mixer. Today, I don't really, but I do like the fact that this recipe actually makes a smaller batch. It makes 9 cookies. I will also give you the nutrient totals down below, so the macros, so you can actually put it into MyFitnessPal and figure that out. So now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. And that likes to make a little bit of a mess, so I'm gonna be really careful there. It powders up pretty quick. I'm just using Hershey's, but I've also used Ghirardelli's Dutch process, which I like as well. It's just 100% unsweetened cocoa. Okay, so we're gonna add that. We're going to also add a 1/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa flakes. Now mine, I got shredded, fine shred, because I prefer it that way. I don't like the bigger chunks in there, but I do like a little bit taste of coconut. So that adds a little bit of texture to it. And again, notice we're not using any flour, not even almond flour or coconut flour. We're just using actual coconut. So yeah, I think I got that at my local Yolks here. They have a pretty good health food section that I regularly visit. Okay, and to that, we're going to also add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So that's the rising agent. We're gonna use that and mix it up again real quick. And then I'm also adding one thing that didn't include in the main recipe, but it included it in the picture, so I don't know exactly what was up with that. But I do actually like to use Lily's chocolate chips. Now, my favorite thing about Lily's chocolate chips is they are made without added sugars. They're actually made with stevia. They're gonna be a little more expensive. I think I pay $6 or $7 for a 12-ounce bag, but they last forever. My daughter made this cute little holder for them, but they last for a long time because I don't use them very often. I just tend to throw them in either like my brownie bites that I make or recipes like this, so it makes it super easy. So I'm gonna incorporate that really quick and mix that again. Let me make sure that I got all the ingredients because I don't want them to turn out weird. Yeah, so far so good. So the only other thing we need to add is the chocolate chips. But I'm gonna wait for this. It takes a minute to incorporate the cocoa, and I am gonna have to scrape it down with my rubber scraper. Now I'm gonna turn it up for a second, which I know it's really loud. I apologize. These ended up being super, super loud mixers. I just wanna make sure that it gets all nice into the right texture, and it'll take a second. But it's getting there really quick. All right. Not bad at all. Actually, the paddle's working just fine. So I'm gonna scrape down the sides, just make sure, because there's a little bit of excess cocoa on the sides. I know that it uses quite a bit of cocoa, and honestly, it does contain a little bit of carbs, so you have to watch. If you're doing keto or something like that, you have to be really careful how much you're actually getting. I don't believe in net carbs, especially when it comes to processed food. Obviously, when it comes to things like vegetables and fruit, it's a little different ballgame because that's nature's food, that's nature's candy. But yeah, I'm not a believer in net carbs. I think that's something that the food industry made up to make you feel like it's okay to eat something. So, all right, I'm gonna throw in also a 4th cup of the Lily's chocolate chips. It's actually perfect. You really don't need more than that. It just gives it, again, a little bit of a different texture. And you know, when you eat regular chocolate chip cookie and you bite into that chocolate chip, it's pretty awesome tasting, right? You kind of get the same feel with this. So I'm gonna put about a 4th cup, maybe a smidge more just because I like the chocolate. Okay, I'm gonna mix that up and then I'm going to actually transfer that to my sheet pan that's already got my favorite tool in the whole world, parchment paper. I've also preheated my oven to 350 and it takes about 12 to 15 minutes to make these, but there's one extra step that I wanna make sure that you know that you need to do because otherwise they end up being kind of weird. So let me mix these in just really quick. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna move my pan over here so it's ready to go. All right, perfect. All right, so it's perfectly mixed. Like I said, the paddle makes it so much easier to actually get the extra. And I'm not kidding, you're probably gonna wanna lick your fingers. Just wait, because remember it has raw egg in it, so you don't necessarily wanna eat the batter. Remember, that's the whole reason why we're not supposed to eat cookie dough. All right, so I'm gonna actually use, like I said, this makes 9 cookies. You might have to kind of mess with it just a little bit. I think I weighed mine out last time. I'm not gonna do that this time. I kind of have an eye for it at this point. But scraping off all of the excess off the paddle, scrape down sides. Like I said, it ends up being kind of a really sticky texture because you're adding some absorbable ingredients with the avocado and it just ends up being just kind of sticky. It's kind of weird, but tastes amazing, so don't discount that. So I'm actually gonna use a small ice cream scoop. Like I said, I want about 9 of these. I'm gonna put it on my pan with parchment paper, and I'm gonna throw it in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes. And the original recipe says 10 to 12 minutes, but I found that mine needed a little bit longer than that. I actually ended up leaving it in about 14 minutes. So now, there's one other step that you're gonna wanna do because these will not spread out like normal cookies. I see people posting stuff up there, but I can't really see it. Oh, Leanna says hi. So, hi, Leanna. It's hard to see from here, okay? I can see. I can see. It's just really small. All right, so I'm going to do about 9 of these, okay? And then the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you just really quick because that way you can get on your way. I'm actually going to take something and flatten them out just a smidgen because honestly, they're not going to spread out or raise as you cook them. I'm actually gonna use a spatula and I'm just gonna kind of push them down flat just a little bit. The benefit there is that they're gonna cook a little more evenly because yeah, they're just otherwise they're just gonna be a ball and it's gonna take a little bit longer to cook. So that's probably why my first set took a little bit longer. You just wanna kind of push them down. You could do it halfway through baking as well when the texture, the top starts to crust over just a little bit so it doesn't stick. That's not a bad idea as well. So I showed you what the cookie's going to like when you're finished. Oh, not kidding, guys. Like if chocolate's your thing, these are seriously the best ever. I'm having a hard time staying out of them. Might not be a bad idea to freeze them and then have to unthaw them when you want to eat one. That way it takes a little bit of time and you don't eat multiples. So hopefully that gives you some great ideas. You know, I love this. It gives my family some healthier versions of things that we love to eat, especially during the season where we're all trying to be a little healthier after the holidays are over. You know, why not? Why not add some healthy alternatives to your cookbook and be able to enjoy life as well. So try it, let me know what you found out, and if you have a really great recipe. Now, mind you, I've had some people send me some really awesome recipes, but if it has more than probably 10 ingredients, I probably won't include it because I personally cannot do complicated. I just can't, I just don't have time, and I just get a little overwhelmed and I won't do it. So I pick recipes that are easy for all of us to try. You know, that's what I like. So have an incredible weekend, you guys, and until next week, that's Meals with Melissa. Bye now.